everyone, I just came back from a trip to Okinawa. It was an amazing experience getting to train there with a couple of impressive grandmasters and learning different styles and ways to do things. I've been doing Bojutsu for most of my life, but the style that I teach is American Bojutsu, and it actually includes a holistic form of lots of things that come from Okinawa, but other places around the world too. But it was very interesting. I wanted to go over a few lessons that I learned in this video. The first lesson that really came up is called Tunned. Tunned is the core, the energy core center of your body. So think of it as the center of your entire body right here, basically under your belly button, and it's very important to engage this. Now, if you already train in a style of Okinawan karate, this is probably ABCs to you, but it's something that I wasn't exposed to in my Shotokan training as well as my other weapons trainings. But essentially, you want to engage your glutes and squeeze upward, and then push your pelvis out some as you're, whenever you breathe out, you want to imagine that you're breathing downward. Okay, and that actually engages that tanden, which you only want to use at the exact split-second moment that you're finishing an attack or actually moving something out of the way with your block. That actually allows you to conserve your energy and only engage it when most necessary. And of course, you use it with good hip rotation. So that leads me to the next thing, which is hip rotation. Hip rotation is clearly something that people talk about in traditional martial arts all the time. We do use it a little bit in Ultimate Bow, the American Bojutsu that I teach, but we actually use even more total body movement than just the hips, whereas I saw in one style specifically, Ryokyo Kobudo, you really go down low, you really sink in, and you only use your hips. So think of it like a whip. That was a really good metaphor that I hadn't heard before. So it's like a whip. Imagine just throwing it out there, but not bringing it back. How much power would the whip have? Oh, not very much. But if you flick it at the end, that flick at the end actually really allows for the whip to get additional intensity at the end of the strike. And so we really do the same thing in any of our strikes here, and moving the hip out and back. So that's something I'm still going to be working on because it's different the way that they did their hip rotation and the style that I was training in. But that was a really good takeaway. Another important takeaway is that speed comes from relaxation. So I tend to be tense, especially in my shoulders. If you put my arm out here and just let it drop, it takes a little too long to come down, so that's something I need to work on anyway. But that was an important element, something that was brought up many times from both of the senseis that I worked with. To really get as fast as possible, you need to be completely relaxed until the point of impact. I mean, totally relaxed. And another thing is totally relaxed after the point of impact or the block. That's also a little different from what I've trained in the past. So rather than striking and then keeping it really tense to the next motion, you actually relax almost to the point of where only your hands or your fingers are gripping the staff, but otherwise, if you let go, the staff would just fall to the ground. And if you practice this way, completely relaxed in between each motion, you can still have pretty clean-looking techniques, but it doesn't tire you out near as quickly. So another takeaway was actually a contrast between having a very low center of gravity versus light footwork, because I worked with two different senseis and they had different viewpoints on this. But a low center of gravity, such as making sure the staff is held in thirds so that you have a very good center balance, and that most of your strikes and your techniques are very centered in the center of your body. Okay, so having a low enough center of gravity to where you're just sunk down, and you're able to then engage from here. And then rising up, such as landing as an elephant, but then coming back up and just being light as a bird. But when you're landing into your techniques, you really sink in to the energy. You really sink down into the ground so that you're able to more engage that tanden. Because if you don't have your feet all the way on the ground, for example, you're not able to get that full engagement in the tanden, the center core, and you can't do hip rotation as well. On the other side, I worked with another sensei who they have a higher stance. They do like a Niko Ashi Dashi, Kamai position, and they literally only have one toe on the ground on the front foot. And the idea here is it's more of an animalistic influence. It's kind of like a cat stalking its prey. You're being very, very light, you're very mobile, you're very agile, and you're not overly committed to a stance. So two completely different ideas there that it's interesting to see how one or the other could be useful depending on your body type, depending on what style suits you, things like that. Another big question I had was in regarding defenses or defending attacks. Almost everything I learned was bow versus bow. Of course, they also practice bow versus sai and other things like that in kobudo, but not a lot of things like bow versus empty hand or just bow versus a knife or a bladed weapon, a machete or something like that, because we like to take a look at how to use a bow or something like a bow, whether it be a broomstick or a pipe or something, to actually defend yourself in a real life situation, or a walking stick, and we want to make it very applicable. So almost everything was considering bow versus bow, the kata and the kumite and the bankai and all that. So that was interesting that it didn't expand too much beyond that generally, and a lot of the defense concepts were literally getting your body out of the way. Like, get your body out of the way and then just move the staff. Get your body out of the way, then move their staff out of the way so that you can then counter. So clearly having good footwork is very, very important. So that was one aspect of defenses that they taught. So I hope you guys enjoyed these takeaways. So for me, for my own Bojutsu training, these are things that I can apply to enhance what I already do. It's not so much that it will totally change everything on how I've been training beforehand, but just like I'd love to go to China and see the way that they move their staff more closely, and other parts of the world, because there's so many different ways you can use a long stick to fight or defend yourself with. And if we can take things here and there that apply best to our body, to our style, and that can just enhance our training, that's exactly what this journey is all about. So I hope you guys enjoyed that.